expecting weekly because we win. That is our motto. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. Don't give us the bird, don't give us your stink eye. We try our best and we're successful. Come watch our show. That river sponsor. It's time to start. Enjoy the show.
Good day to everyone. It's Betting Weekly Live on Tuesday, the 24th of September. You with Steve Wyss and James Eastham. It's great to have you back on the show. James, how was your weekend?
Well, it was very good. Yeah.
Cashing tickets, as always.
Absolutely. Well, not as many as you, Steve. Didn't you get 3-on-3 this weekend on our show, the European football show? I think you did.
I did. The same game parlay did let me down,
Yes.
but that's only a half unit on that. It was
true.
a good weekend. Yesterday, unfortunately, on the live show, and this is what I'm going to start with, actually. Mallorca. The Mallorca Betis game let a lot of people down. There was a strong suspicion of unders. There was Real Betis were quite a popular pick, and there were plenty of four-figure losers on that game. Bit of Monday madness. So hopefully we can get back to some more winners here on Tuesday. We've got quite a bit to go through. We've got La Liga. We've got the midweek card. We've got one Serie A match, which we talked about yesterday. It's now been postponed and it's going to play today instead. We've got a special section on French second division with us both being on the show, a bit of special insight into Liga, and then there's EFL Cup as well. So there's plenty going on, James. And I'm just looking through the comments here. Already welcoming everyone. Rick, Raymond, Klebo, Cod Gaming, Duncan. Good to see you as well. James, you must be buzzing after your Milan pick on Sunday. That was a great winner, late one.
It was. Yes, delighted with that. That was my hot dog pick of the weekend. It was Milan, just to blow our own trumpet here. Milan to have over 1.5 goals in the derby against Inter, which they managed. So that was great. But one of many winners we had at the weekend. Yeah, it was a good round of games for us. And hopefully we can come up with some good ones on today's games as well.
Yeah, let's hope we can come up with some more winners, like you say. I'm going to start with a game that actually kicks off at 3 p.m. Eastern because it's the biggest game of the day. Really involves Real Madrid against Alaves. Real Madrid actually have been involved in quite a lot of unders this season, but they seem to maybe find something at the weekend. A 4-1 win against Espanyol. Everyone's kind of saying Real Madrid not playing very well. Well, they're up there in the table, just 4 points behind Barcelona. This is what Real Madrid do, isn't it, James? They kind of just simmer below the surface. Even when they play in sort of badly, they find ways to get results, and then they get into their stride. They are the hot favourites to beat Alaves tonight. Minus 560 on the money line. The tie is as big as plus 650. And you can get Alaves at 14-1. The over-under goal line is between 3.5 and 3.25. I must admit, when I first looked at this, I was thinking of under 3.25, but I kind of wanted a bit of a higher goal line with Real Madrid involved. I know you've got some thoughts on this game. What do you think?
Yeah, well, you've made the point about Real Madrid getting the job done. And I think that's how it's played out so far this season. They're not dominating games, are they? But they've got so much quality in attack and also off the bench as well that they're just managing to win the games through moments of individual quality and also penalties and things like that. The standout stat for me, Steve, on Real Madrid, and I couldn't believe it when I looked at this, is that if you look at the 8 games they've played so far this season in all competitions, they've scored 18 goals. 17 of those goals have come after half time, which shows just how their games are going. You know, they're clearly slow to start. I don't think they're playing that well as a team. But as the game goes on, they're managing to get the win. And we've seen just a glut of late goals. The 4-1 win against Espanyol the other day. They had 3 goals in the final 20 minutes, all 4 goals after half-time. They had a 3-1 win against Stuttgart in the Champions League. All 3 goals in that game came after half-time. So if you're looking for a way to play on Real Madrid at the moment, then honestly, I'd be looking maybe in play, maybe in running. I'd look at Real Madrid if they're struggling. Back them maybe at halftime or early in the second half. But that did lead me to one of my 2 plays on the game. I would look strongly here at tie Real Madrid on the halftime, full-time market. So you're back in the game to be a tie at halftime. and Real Madrid to go on and win it. That's available at plus 310. The way Real Madrid games have been going so far this season, I think that's a great price. And the other pick I had on the game, I'm probably stronger myself on this one, actually. It was both teams to score yes. I was slightly surprised that both teams to score yes is available at odds against. It's plus money, plus 108. Let's not forget there are two teams playing in this game. Alaves obviously aren't as high profile, but they have scored twice in all of their last 4 matches. Yeah, and they've won 3 of those games. They've beaten some good, decent sides. They've beaten Real Sociedad, beaten Las Palmas, beaten Sevilla, scored 2 goals in all of those games. So the chances, I think, of Alaves getting on the score sheet possibly are being underrated by the market. So more of a lean really than a pick, but my main lean on the game would be that it would be both teams to score yes at plus 108.
I've got to remind everyone that all of these La Liga matches are available to watch on the Bet Rivers app. Real Madrid, Alaves, and the 2 other games that we're going to talk about soon. I don't have a pick on this game either. You've got me thinking about the halftime, full-time angle there. Under 1.25 first half goals could be maybe worth looking at, plus 100 here. I was actually on the over first half in the Real Madrid-Stuttgart game last week. I have no idea how it was 0-0 at halftime, though. There was chances everywhere. So I just wonder now they've got that. They might have found their mojo a little bit at the weekend. Do they come out firing? We've got to be very careful with the midweek card in La Liga. I'll talk with Rory Barlow about this tomorrow, but there's often a lot of rotation from everyone, not just the big teams. I don't know, it's a Spanish thing or whatever. Alaves have done quite well, promoted last season, of course. Often teams have a second season syndrome problem. I don't think it's as prevalent in soccer now in the top leagues in Europe. So they've had 3 wins, Alaves, to be fair to them. They went to Real Sociedad and won. I think Real Madrid will win this game, but I'm not really heavy on anything. So you'd be leaning sort of half-time tie Real Madrid full-time. And there's an interesting pick there from Effie I've just seen in the comments. Over 1.5 second-half goals. Yeah. Could be an interesting angle for sure. Just going through some of the comments. The Swedish runner did get dicey yesterday, Jared. Just about held on in IFK Gothenburg. Abdul says great pick of a Leipzig game at the weekend. I'll give Dan Roebuck a bit of credit for that as well. He did call the 0-0. Dan's best bet of the year, best pick of the year. Florence Nightingale, welcome back, Steve. How's my ankle? It's still a little bit rough. I mean, my counterpart, Johan Wisser, he's ruled out till November for Brentford. And I think I might be out for at least another month, like competitive action, whatever that might mean. And Abdul says, excellent job with the Milan pick as well, James, over the weekend. It was a great one. We're going to stay with La Liga. We've got 2 other games. These are earlier kickoff times. This is 1 p.m. Eastern. Valencia against Osasuna and Sevilla against Valladolid. I had a good winner, actually, with Osasuna at the weekend, but I don't think I would fancy them here. They've been very much a home and away team. Osasuna can be backed at plus 300 now. There's been a little bit of money for them. Valencia plus 104. Had a great win against Girona at the weekend, but generally you don't want to be trusting Valencia with your money around the even money mark, James. In my experience the last couple of years, this could be maybe an under game. I'm not sure. This is a hard one. In my head I'd go Valencia but tough. Yeah,
me too. Maybe I had a look at these. I'm going to leave these alone myself, Steve. I kind of focused on Real Madrid. I do think there's a bit more value in looking at some of those Real Madrid markets. That's just me personally, not in general. I've just got a slightly better read at the moment on Real Madrid, so I'm going to leave the other 2 alone and see. But you're right. The general point you made about the midweek card is an interesting one. It is difficult because obviously you can look at the squad lists and they can be quite strong. I know Real Madrid, for example, got, as far as we know, a strong squad of players available tonight, but we don't know at this stage, as we're filming, the degree to which managers are going to rotate. Obviously, Real Madrid have got a lot of depth in their squad. It might not affect them as much, but if 1 or 2 of the other teams rotate, it can have a huge difference, can't it, on their chances of winning the game. So it is tricky. And Rory, obviously, Rory Barlow, you've mentioned, he knows this league inside out. So when he's talking about the fact they do rotate, it's worth listening, isn't it? Because it can make a difference to the prices on what we would deem a good price on a team to do well.
I think it's a really tough one. I can't call that game. I wouldn't want to get involved with it. Sevilla against Valladolid. Sevilla minus 157 on the money line. A winless Valladolid at plus 450 now. There's been a little bit of a cut in their odds today. I would not be trusting Sevilla with monopoly money right now, though, James. They have had one win all season. They are struggling. Some of their performances, they're just a bit too dysfunctional for me. And at minus 157, I'm not bothered about them at all. Valladolid, though, 3 away matches, and they've lost 3-0 to Real Madrid. They've lost 7-0 to Barcelona and 3-1 to Celta Vigo. So struggling on the road. Really hard to put your money down for either team, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. I think you got two teams there, both down near the bottom of the table, aren't they? Not where they want to be. Puts a bit of pressure on them. You might see changes here rather than rotation, actually, I think, from the managers to try and get better results. So sort of the managers picking different players to try to improve the team. I'm with you on the price. That very short minus money price on a team not doing well has no appeal at all, does it? So game to leave alone, this one for me. I think take a watching brief on this and see what you can learn about the two teams, but there's nothing here of interest for me, certainly.
F.E. Briljovsky says both teams score yes into the V again. They need the points. Minus 112 if you fancy that one. I mean, Valladolid have only scored 2 goals all season. That's what would slightly put me off there. But I do admit it is a dynamic which is fairly true, what Effie says. Valladolid, I mean, what can I say about them? They do really struggle, don't they, to hit the back of the net. Sevilla on paper are far better. They've got the quality. They've got the class, really, that should make the difference, but not particularly in great rhythm. Maybe Sevilla by 1 goal, if I had to. Again, 2 really tough games, these early ones in La Liga. I've got to be honest. I just don't think you want to be parting with your hard-earned cash here for these ones. But maybe watch them on the BetRivers app at 1 p.m. Eastern, and you might find some in-running potential. We've got a Serie A match to talk about. This wasn't going to be on the card today. Atalanta against Como. This was yesterday's match. Got postponed because of waterlogged pitch, adverse weather in that region. And I'm a little bit surprised, actually, they've put it on today. This does seem to happen this wouldn't happen in the UK, would it, James, at all?
No.
I've seen it happen more on the continent. Atalanta minus 210. I can tell you an interesting stat here. Atalanta, are the most wagered Tuesday soccer play BetRivers, with 14% of the total Tuesday handle. So they are the most popular bet. Whether or not that is, would that include some of yesterday's bets that carry on? I don't know the actual terms and conditions of the book, but I mean, Atalanta very popular here. How's the pitch going to be? I mean, that's what I would be looking at. As soon as I see the TV feed today, I'll be looking, how's it playing in practice, in the warm-ups? Because if it's not looking good, I'll be looking at the unders, but who knows? Yeah,
well, that's the thing. I mean, normally when you have a game that's postponed just for 24 hours like that, like this is, it's usually not to do with whether it's to do with maybe travel or a team arriving late or a problem with access to the stadium or something like that. Not something that might actually affect how the game goes. And obviously the pitch being in a terrible condition yesterday to the point they couldn't play the game, it's bound to have a bearing on the game today because they've only had 24 hours for the pitch to get better. So I'm slightly surprised it's going ahead. They must be confident they can improve it. If you go back 25 years, of course, Serie A did have a history of having games played on all sorts of pitches, which were more like swimming pools at one stage. So they're not averse to playing when the pitch isn't perfect. And like you say, Steve, if it is a really heavy pitch, still a lot of water on it, it can make a big difference. But putting the pitch to one side, I struggled with this game, I must admit, to take a strong view on it. I've been doing plenty of picks on the weekly show on Serie A. I think there've been some teams in the division so far who've been not easy to read, but I think where there's been a bit of form and you've been able to see what might be happening. Atalanta, for me, they're not one of those sides at the moment. They've been quite unpredictable. If you look just at their last 3 matches, they lost 4-0 away to Inter. Then they beat Fiorentina at home 3-2. Then they had the 0-0 draw against Arsenal last week in Europe. If you actually watch those 3 games, they kind of played quite differently, both in terms of standard and the way they approach those games across the 3 matches. Plenty of versatility from Atalanta about the way they're attacking matches at the moment, but it's actually quite difficult to know what you're going to get. So they're obviously a very short price to win. You would expect that. They're a potential top 4 side in Serie A this season, whereas Como, who they're facing, are potential relegation candidates. So on paper, there is a big difference in quality, but I'm just not confident enough about what we're getting game after game from Atalanta at the moment to want to support them at those short prices. So I'll be very interested on all sorts of fronts. First of all, the pitch, as you've said, Steve, will be crucial. Keep an eye on that. Also, let's see if we can get a bit more consistency maybe from Atalanta. But I would be waiting to see what we get from this game rather than betting on it myself. I don't have a strong pick on this game at all.
Welcome in, Kirk. Good to see you. Any leans in the Dutch Cup matches? That wasn't actually a competition I looked at today, but I'd imagine there'd be probably quite a lot of goals in it, knowing how that cup works. I would be looking at under 2.75 if the pitch looks a bit dicey. The players are going to be annoyed here. This wasn't planned. It wasn't scheduled. It could be a bit of a low tempo sort of game where they're not really fancying it that much. Is anyone betting in that Atalanta game tonight? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it. And you make a very good point, actually. As a bettor, I hate betting on teams. I don't know what version of them we're going to get. Yeah. I much prefer a team that play one way only. There's a few examples of it down across the different leagues. And, fantastic that they've got great tactical variation, but that's no good for us bettors because we don't know how they're going to approach a game. I would much rather have someone like a Bielsa or De Zerbi. We know exactly what their style is going to be. We know how he's going to try and play it. So takes the question marks out of it. Makes a very good point there about Atalanta. We've not really got many main picks yet, but don't worry. We've got some solid concrete selections coming your way right now. And this is a special section here. We've got 9 matches tonight in France. In French Ligue 2, though, the second tier of French football. This used to be my main league that I studied, covered, and did a lot of analysis for, James, and did a lot of betting on as well. And it was a challenge down the years. It was historically quite low scoring. We've got an abundance of games there. Some of you might recognize these teams that were in the top tier recently, like Lorient and Ajaccio, Metz, of course, Troyes not too long ago, and then some teams that you might not recognize either. We actually agree on a pick here, James. I've got to say it's one of my strongest ones of the day. And this is in the Paris FC against Guingamp fixture. The favourites here are Paris FC plus 150, over 2.5 goals at plus 123. What's the angle?
Yeah, well, the angle here is goals, Steve, over goals, both teams to score, yes. Those sort of picks on this game. For those people who don't spend their weekends like me and you do, Steve, watching French second division games when we've got spare time, which I imagine is most viewers, just a quick introduction. Paris FC and Guingamp are probably both going to be challenging for promotion this season, or they want to be. And they're both fairly positive sides. Front foot football from both of them is what we've seen so far this season. I don't think either side will change tonight. I think they'll both go for it. Paris FC are at home. Guingamp away from home, I think they'll play exactly the same way and be really positive. A few stats so far this season. They've played 10 matches between them. 7 of those 10 matches have had over 2.5 goals. 6 of their 10 matches, both teams have scored. So I was really surprised by the price here, Steve. I don't know what you thought, but over 2.5 goals is available at plus money, and it's big plus money. It's plus 123. I thought it'd be nearer even money, to be honest. So I wouldn't talk anybody out of backing over 2.5 goals because that's what we've been seeing from these two sides. My pick on the game is over 2.25 goals at minus 108. So with that pick, if there are just 2 goals in the game, you're only going to lose half your stakes as opposed to losing all your stakes. So it gives you a slight safety net, slightly more conservative pick. But as I say, overs all the way for me. I think it's the way the two teams play, and I think that's what we'll see tonight. Both teams to score, yes, is available at minus 113. Also worth considering. So, yeah, it was my main pick on this division today. I think we're going to see a really open and entertaining game from these two sides, and I think that overs price is well worth taking.
So this would be your best bet of the day?
This would be my... I'm not actually sure it would, actually.
One of them. Yeah, this
one
is
of them.
For me.
I know it's your main, isn't it, I think?
Second best bet of the day for me, actually, in the division. Yeah. But I'm strong on it. Paris FC against Guingamp. That's the pronunciation there. Some might think it's pronounced Guingamp. It's one of those difficult ones. I like over 2.25 goals at minus, I think 108 it is. You can take over 2.5 goals plus money plus 123. Guingamp, third best expected goals in the division, the highest scorers in the division, but also the third worst expected goals against. These stats are from Y-Scout. I dug them out this afternoon. So you've got a team that are just kind of a bit unusual, actually, for the mentality of this league. They're going for it. And knowing both managers, I think there will be goals in this game. I'm going to give you my best bet of the day now. and it actually comes from this division. And this is Annecy against Troyes. Now, Troyes, for those who don't know about them, they are owned by the City Group. They're one of there's about 5 or 6 teams in this now. It's been a bit of a mess, hasn't it? They should have been relegated last season. They got reinstated because of Bordeaux's demise. So they shouldn't even be in this division. They've been awful. They've got the worst. Basically, their metrics are the worst of any team at both ends of the field. I'm fully expecting Annecy to win this game, but the bet I'm going with is the Annecy team total over 1.5 goals at -117. That's covered in all but one Annecy games. They've got a decent offence about them this year. And Troyes are just a mess. I mean, they managed to hold out for a freak 0-0 draw away from home against Bastia. But every time I see this club, actually, in the last 2 or 3 years, they're awful on the field and off the field. Troyes lost 4 of the first 5, an absolute mess. I think Annecy win this match. But rather than just need him to win, let's just take him to score 2 goals. -117 team total over 1.5 goals there. Troyes, well, they are just a club in turmoil, really, aren't they?
Yeah, they've been terrible. I totally agree with that, Steve. Let's not forget, it's only not that long ago they were in the top division in France. They've slid through from League 1 to League 2. As you say, they should have gone into the 3rd division last season, but they got saved because Bordeaux essentially went bankrupt. And they've been really poor, which is in a way not a surprise, but they do actually have some decent players. But as you say, everything about the way the club has been run and the issues they've had in the last 6 to 12 months have been terrible. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see them get beaten again today.
Yeah, honestly, not a bad team. Scored in every single game this year. Scored at least twice in 4 of their 5 fixtures, and at home here, going quite well. That's my best bet of the day. Annecy team total over 1.5 goals. We've got one more match to talk about in the French second tier, and that involves Metz against Martigues. So this actually is a clash between a relegated team. Metz were in League 1 last year, and Martigues, I think they were recently promoted anyway. I'm not actually 100% sure about that, but you can get a Martigues at a big price if you fancy them this evening at 10-1 on the money line. But you don't think that's going to happen, James? You like the host?
Yeah, I like Metz here. You can see from those prices just what a big outsider Martigues are. By far the biggest price on the money line available on any game in France League 2 tonight is Martigues away from home, +1,000. This is a complete mismatch on paper. You're absolutely right, Steve. Martigues are newly promoted. They look really weak to me. They look still like a 3rd division team, in all honesty, in terms of how they're playing, in terms of the players they've got. They've got players missing tonight as well. They look like they're going to be pretty weak in midfield, where they don't have a lot of players anyway, but quite a few are missing. And Metz are looking like they should challenge for promotion out of this division this season. I'd be really surprised if they didn't stick around at the top for most of their campaign. So you're looking at a real big mismatch here. I cannot see any reason why the game shouldn't go along those lines, with Metz getting it won quite comfortably. And it's the fact they should win it quite comfortably that has led me to my pick, which is Metz on the Asian handicap, -1.25 goal start on the Asian handicap, which is available at -109. So you need Metz to win the game by a couple of goals for this to cash. I think they're fully capable of doing that. They'll be supported by a really big crowd here. Should be 16,000 there to watch Metz tonight. They've played pretty decent football so far this season. They've drawn 3 of their first 5 games, but they haven't lost yet. I think they're due a really big win. This game falls at a great time for them to have that big win. Martigues, as I say, they've got problems. They're going to be short of players tonight. They lost 4-0 in their last game against Grenoble, which was indicative really of just how weak they can be. So I'm expecting a big win for Metz tonight. And yeah, this is my main pick of the day, actually. This is my strongest selection. It's Metz on the Asian handicap, -1.25 goal start at -109.
And Metz do have the highest expected points in League 10.1, followed by Lorient and Rodez, actually the 3rd most expected points. They are an underachieving side, so watch out for Rodez and Pau, not the Teletubby. Expected points of 8 in the expected points total. A fantastic city from southwest France on the gateway to the Pyrenees. So yeah, that's your best bet of the day on the card there. Metz on the -1.25 Asian handicap. We've got EFL Cup to talk about to finish off the show, and as I always say with these competitions, be very wary of the lineups. watch out for rotation, everything like that. It's hard to sometimes place a bet unless you've got inside info until you know the lineups. But there's some massive mismatches today. Chelsea against Barrow. Now, this is Chelsea are minus 1667 on the money line with Bet Rivers. The tie is 12-1, and Barrow 27-1 with Bet Rivers to win on the money line. This is it should be a huge mismatch. I like the handicaps are massive here, James. Barrow, a League 2 outfit. But you actually quite like a pick on this game, don't you, James? Take us through what you are fancying.
Yeah, I do. I actually quite like Chelsea on this game, Steve. They're obviously a really, really short price on the money line. But there's such a big difference in quality here. Barrow, you've said it. They play in League 2, which is the 4th tier of the English football pyramid. And they've started the season really well, actually. But at that level, this is a huge step up for them. And I fancy Chelsea here to win. Their -3 Asian handicap is available at minus 103. And that would be my pick on the game. I back Chelsea with -3 goal start on the Asian handicap. I think they should win by 3 goals. I don't think it's a particularly big ask of them against this type of opposition. My thinking on Chelsea, Steve, is that they've got to take this competition seriously. Yeah, they can't win the league. They're almost impossible for them to win the league. And they need to try and win some silverware, and there aren't that many competitions for them to go for. So, yes, they may well rotate and rest players here, but I still think they'll be focused on winning this competition. And I think as a club, they'll take the game seriously and want to do well. And I think any players that are rotated into the side, who maybe aren't starting the Premier League at the moment, they'll want to do well as well. So everything about this for me says Chelsea should win. They've got that huge squad that we talk about all the time. Well, now's a chance for some of those players to show what they can do. If you look at some of the players who might be playing tonight, people like Chilwell, England international left back, Christopher Nkunku might be playing up front. This is the latest team news we have. And 2 players I would look out for in the to-score market. This isn't a pick, but 2 French defenders, Axel Disasi and Benoit Badiashile. Now, they might play tonight, and they're both plus 540 to score. We know they're good in the air. We know that Chelsea should be better than Barrow in the air. And I think plus 540 for 2 players who need to impress if they do play might be worth a little bit of a look. So my main pick is on Chelsea, -3 on the Asian handicap, minus 103. Disasi and Badiashile, if they're in the starting lineup, might be worth a look. But I take the point about rotation and, do teams take this competition seriously? I personally think Chelsea will be taking this seriously, and I think they'll win, and I think they should win big tonight.
Punter says he likes Real Madrid first half -2. And over 2 first half goals. Interesting. Against the grain, but sometimes that works, doesn't it?
Yes.
Johnson says, have you got any shot on target thoughts today? You need a section on the weekly show for shot on target picks.
Thank you. Do you know what? I've got one for later in the week, Steve. If we've got time to mention the Lyon game, I do have one for that match. So
we will talk about the
maybe
Lyon
squeeze
game.
it in before the end.
Yes. EFL Cup then. I want to talk about Manchester City against Watford. And again, look, it's very much lineup dependent, but I do know a Watford fan who plays in my cricket team, actually. And he never shuts up about them when they're going well. So I kind of get the inside info on Watford, what's going on with them week in, week out. They're a massive price. They're even bigger, actually, than on screen now. 24-1 now with Bet Rivers. You can get them to win on the money line. And the tie's 10-1. Manchester City -1115. So there's been plenty of money for City today. Maybe that's indication there's some knowledge about the team might be stronger than we think. But even the City reserves are pretty damn strong. There's a ridiculous. The head-to-head here is a bit daft. There's always Watford usually get absolutely smashed by Man City. They got beat 6-0 in an FA Cup final in 2019 by them. They got beat 8-0 the season after that. The most recent win for Man City against them in 2022 was 5-1. Okay, I'm not a head-to-head man, as you know,
yes.
But this one always sticks out to me that Watford always struggle against Manchester City. Yeah. What about over 3.5 goals at -132? I mean, it's a cup match. The pressure's off. The teams are probably going to go for it. Watford, I've seen a bit of them this season in the Championship, and they have got a few goals in them, but I don't trust their defense either. So I'm not a big fan of betting big goal lines, and this would only be a small play.
Yes.
But based on their 9 of the last 10 head-to-heads have gone over 3.5. We know both teams have got attacking potential in them. Indications show perhaps this might be a stronger City lineup than we think. Quite like the goals.
And you do think, Steve, obviously it's a different set of players for Watford tonight than most nearly all of those games. But that kind of narrative, it can feed into a team's way of approaching a game when it's such a clear and emphatic head-to-head pattern. So maybe Watford, who are massive underdogs anyway, maybe they go there with a slightly different frame of mind because of those stats. Who knows? But yeah, I think over goals, I'm like you. When the line is really high, it's not really what I naturally go for. But it wouldn't be a shock, would it? Let's be honest, if City were to score 3 or 4 on their own tonight.
Well, we're going to finish off because you're on the show and the matches are not on today. But with the Europa League starting this week, I thought it's only fair we get your opinion of how you think Lyon and Nice are going to get on in the Europa League. Both 20-1 shots to win it with Bet Rivers. I guess the first question would be, are they worth any of your hard-earned cash to place on the futures market? And we've got 2 matches this week. We've got Lyon against Olympiacos and Nice against Real Sociedad. We're going to talk about that again tomorrow with Rui Barlow. But just thoughts on Lyon Nice. And you said you got a shot on target angle you might.
Yeah, there is one. Well, there is. Yeah, there's one on the Lyon game. I'll come on to that. On the outright, I don't personally think they are worth it, Steve. I think 20 plus 2,000. They're both plus 2,000 are Lyon and Nice to win the Europa League. That makes them joint 8th favourites to win the competition. I mean, that's almost like saying that they should be making the quarterfinals or at the very least the last 16. I think that's fair. I think they should be aiming for that level. But when you see some of the other sides in the competition, I think it would be a surprise if they actually went on and won it. So I wouldn't touch them in the outright market. Looking at the 2 games this week, Nice are at home to Real Sociedad. I quite like Nice to get something from this game. They had that huge win last weekend. They beat Saint-Etienne 8-0 in League One, did Nice. And they played some fantastic attacking football in that game. So they should get something from that match. They're plus 148. So maybe look at them, tie no bet or something like that. But I think Nice should at least avoid defeat. Lyon Olympiacos. So there is one player in the shots on target market I quite like. Gift Orban is plus 102 to have over 0.5 shots on target. Now, that's not a bad price. The issue with Gift Orban, like with a lot of players at Lyon at the moment, is will he start? Because they've got a big squad. They might rotate. He's sort of going head-to-head with George Mikau-Tads at the moment for a place in the starting lineup at Lyon. So he might be on the bench. But if he is on the bench, then you should get your stakes back anyway if you place the bet on him. I think if he does start, plus 102 to have over 0.5 shots on target, it's a pretty good price, that. I think plus money on Orban, who is a really sharp finisher, when he's played for Lyon, is worth taking. So that was my early view on the game. But yeah, generally speaking, going into this competition, not for me on either of those 2 teams to win it this season.
Yeah, I like Orban as well. He's got a fantastic record in Europe, and I was eyeing him up to score at any time, but we don't know if he's going to start this game for Lyon. This is a Thursday match, by the way, against Olympiacos.
Yeah.
And I do agree with you. I don't think you really... I mean, when was the last time a French team won one of these competitions? I think Marseille made the final of one in the last decade.
Yeah.
But generally, it's not a good idea to bet on French teams in the on the futures outright, unless you potentially looking to back and then trade it off, hedge it off. That could be something, because I just don't see them winning it.
If they were much bigger, Steve, if they were like plus 4,000 to win it, 40-1, then I'd be interested. But plus 2,000, no, too short.
Kushal says City winning, both teams to score. Yes. Interesting one. Yeah, I could see that. Watford maybe nicking a consolation. They sometimes don't take it lightly. Manchester is red. Real win and win the second half. Villa win and Atalanta win. Henry VIII says EFL Manchester United. Manchester United are playing against Twente tomorrow. So is that... they won't be that price for that, will they? Is that a different game, Henry? Anyway, that's going to be it for the day. Best bet before we finish, James, what reminds everyone?
Yep. Best bet is in France League 2, Metz Martigues. Metz on the Asian handicap, minus 1.25 goal start at minus 109.
And for me, the best bet is the same league, French League 2. Annecy, team total over 1.5 goals, minus 117. Mandeep Singh says City to win both halves. Yeah, that could very much happen. Yes. Wouldn't put anyone off that one. Back tomorrow with Rui Barlow, Spanish handicapper. He's going to give an insight into this midweek La Liga card, and the Europa League gets started as well. Shakespeare's there with his plays. Baltimore Orioles get over the New York Yankees, plus 136, a plus 136 tip there from Shakespeare to round off the show. Hope you have a great day, everyone, with the betting. Cash some tickets. Remember to gamble responsibly. And remember to catch all these soccer games on the Bet Rivers app live. Take care, everyone. See you tomorrow.